Breaking news, Dow off 189 points now. We've been following this story at 11:32 a.m. Eastern time this morning. All trading on the New York Stock Exchange halted, meaning all the shares that trade on the New York Stock Exchange, all of the listed companies that trade there stopped trading. It's now nearly an hour later and nothing. The New York Stock Exchange acknowledging that there is a technical glitch. There's an error with its computer systems. They're investigating. They have no response yet as to what's causing this problem. But you're looking at the trading floor there right now. Remember, most trading has gone electronic, not necessarily in the hands of traders on the floor. Small percentage there, but all trading has been halted. They're looking into what's caused this. We know that they're saying it's a computer glitch. Also, by the way, updating here, Department of Homeland Security, where's my statements here? U.S. security official, a senior U.S. security official saying nothing indicates anything malicious at this time. Of course, everybody in their head wondering, could there be some sort of hack going on here? That certainly is the first thing that jumps into our head.
We don't even want to think it.
Could be a hardware situation, but the Dow still trading because most of those American listed companies do trade on other exchanges. So the Dow still trading, but that volume and that.
So that's why those numbers are moving.
That's right.
Yeah. A couple things. So Reuters is reporting that NYSE is tweeting. Actually, I follow him on Twitter, so we don't even have to cite Reuters, really. But NYSE tweeting, we are experiencing a technical issue that we're working to resolve as quickly as possible. I'll read them in order here. We're doing our utmost to produce a swift resolution, rapidly sending out these tweets. So, you know, you guys point out such a good visual aid in all of this. That picture doesn't really look all that different, Sandra, when there's trading going on,
I want to add
because there's so few people there. And so to follow digitally might be your only way at this point.
Add this into the story because our assignment desk at Fox Business Network is confirming that the WallStreetJournal.com homepage has been having difficulty to the point where many people couldn't log onto it. Now they're confirming that WallStreetJournal.com, WSJ.com, is having technical difficulties, and they have put up a temporary homepage with a message at the top that they're having difficulties, and the full site will return. So maybe completely separate, but just something to note as this happens. And again, a U.S. official saying no signs of malicious behavior on this activity related to this New York Stock Exchange halt. Here's what we know. Floor-wide halt of all New York Stock Exchange stocks. This is a rare occurrence. Investigating the reason right now, the New York Stock Exchange says a technical issue is to blame. Additional information will follow. The New York Stock Exchange is going to provide an update as soon as possible. We've got Charles Payne joining us now from the Fox Business Network. Charles, what do you know on this?
You know, I got to tell you something. It's interesting they came out with this official statement that we've got on the screen right now. No signs of malicious activity related to the New York Stock Exchange halt. There's a lot of scuttlebutt amongst professional investors that maybe something is wrong here. Cybersecurity stocks, which were down with the broad market, are now starting to rally pretty hard on this news. Let's not forget, we began the day with a big-time computer glitch at United Airlines that halted their entire fleet. Not saying these are necessarily related, but it's really pretty eerie stuff. Now, the good news, guys, is that because of automation over the years, the New York Stock Exchange is not the main cog anymore. It's not just completely man-to-man, woman-to-woman, you know, handing over these physical trades. Nevertheless, it's sort of it's unnerving, if you will, for this thing to be down this long and still no real good, clear official explanation.
So, you know, Bill Hemmer was asking about circuit breakers, which obviously it takes, Charles, a lot more than a 200-point sell-off to trigger a general halt in the market. My question would be, did accidentally a circuit breaker go off? I mean, we saw that huge sell-off in the Chinese stock market, 6 to 8% sell-off overnight. We've been seeing big moves in the European markets based on the Greece situation. There could have potentially been an error with some of these circuit breakers. That's something else a lot of people are talking about. But, of course, a lot of us starting to wonder about hacking and is there any malicious behavior?
You know what? I would lean more toward the hacking thing. But to your point, obviously, the market's been tested here. A lot of volatility, a lot of volume. Listen, we were down 120 points really early in the session. And then in a blink of an eye, with no news, we were only off 100 points. Now, we know a lot of people have been buying the dips, that kind of stuff. And then as we started to pull back again, we were down 175 bucks, and that's 175 points rather, and that was it. This whole thing, they went dark down there in the New York Stock Exchange, at least their computer systems, and then we're in this no man's land, if you will. The market's drifting a little bit. The good news is that it's still, people can still trade, and I think they have some comfort in that. But the bad news is, how vulnerable are we, whether it was malicious or not, to these things recurring over and over again?
Charles, what exactly, this is Ainsley, what exactly does it mean for the folks that are watching that are, you know, the everyday American like all of us, just Main Street? What does it mean for them? Because a lot of people borrow the $60,000 against their 401k. They do that to add on to their house or to go and buy a house. What does it mean for those folks who are relying on this money today?
Well, here's a couple of narratives here, Ainsley. From the stock market's point of view, our market is down just relatively. We're still near an all-time high. It depends on when they got in the market, but if they never got out during the bubble time, 2009, they're doing pretty good. They should be up relatively well, and particularly if they kept adding to it. But our markets were due for a pullback. And you have to remember, because we've had such a leisurely move to the upside, we haven't been tested. People are worried, people are nervous, and when you see things going on in Greece, when you see things going on in China, it's obvious, it's natural to be really worried about this and what should I do? Now, the lessons we've learned is not to have these knee-jerk panics, but if you've gone out on the limb, if you borrowed against your 401k, you want to watch this market minute to minute. We are due for some sort of a pullback in this market because it's only natural. It's part of the cyclical nature of investing. Having said that, though, we don't want any kind of disaster to be heaped upon us, either through international crises or some sort of malicious intention with our systems.
Charles, hey, it's Andrea. You mentioned before we haven't been tested like this, but whether or not this is a hacking or whether this is just a simple technical glitch, it certainly seems like it could be a trial run for anyone who wants to do harm to an American business, the stock exchange. You mentioned United Airlines. This is almost a trial balloon to see what would happen if you did try and hack our systems. And I mean, the uncertainty that it could cause. I mean, we saw thousands of travelers today grounded. Now we see thousands of people, hundreds of thousands affected by this, whatever this technical glitch or this incident is. So, and this is a time, I think Harris mentioned it during the break, when James Comey, the FBI director, is up on Capitol Hill testifying that we can't even look and see these encrypted websites and email accounts that ISIS are using. So I don't want to incite panic, but we hear constant reports out of Washington, D.C. that the cybersecurity issue is the biggest problem, and we have not been tested in that way.
There's no doubt we could easily say that we are currently in a cyber war. We're in a cyber war with China, with Russia, and even to a lesser degree with people like ISIS. And you can certainly argue that to a large degree we are losing that. How does the government lose millions, tens of millions of government employee and applicants' information? And by the way, speaking of trial runs, they were in our system. They were playing around in our system. They were having fun in there. They had their own Mardi Gras in there. They took their time. They camped out there. We do know that there have been lots of reports, dozens of reports of individual electric grids that have been infiltrated. So to your point, Andrea, we cannot write that off. Those things are happening. To what degree, we don't know, and that's the scary part.
All right, we still don't know what has caused this hack, but we do know that, we don't want to incite panic by talking about a hack. We don't know what has caused this technical glitch, I should say. This does happen, by the way. This has happened with the commodities exchange, and it was a hardware issue. So all things are on the table right now. We'll be right back.